Let's go ahead and get started. I'm Devin. I work for ClubExpress. I'm on the training team and, kind of on the support team. Today we're going to focus on the membership management tools. So we'll be going over, most of our time we'll be going over like how to extensively use the people manager, because that's where most of our administrators spend a good chunk of their time. We'll also talk about like how to like move one person from one company to another company if they ever like jump ship to uh another group. And then we'll talk about how to manage committees as well. And then we'll also have a bit of a Q&A, and we'll go over some of that. I know we have a points tracking module as well, but I think if we have time, I'll go over a little bit of that. But if not, we will save that for our events day, because it's a little bit more tied into events than it is into the people manager. All right, so I am logged in to the template website for our NIGB chapters. It looks like the Washington chapter right now. I am logged in as an administrator. If you are logged into the website and you're an administrator or not, you should see your name in the upper right-hand corner. Mine says SA because I'm a weird super administrator for ClubExpress, but instead of SA, you would see your name up here in the upper right. If you are logged in with any sort of administrative privileges, you should also see control panel and favorites up in the corner over here. It is sometimes on the left-hand corner, depending on how your website is set up. Oh, we did get one more person. There we go.
If we don't have that, is that an up?
It's not a bad thing. It just means that you haven't been set up as an administrator just yet.
Okay.
So if you are missing control panel and favorites, all that means is someone who is already an administrator or a coordinator needs to then click on control panel, and clicking on control panel takes you to the back end of the website. That is where you go to do just about everything that an administrator needs to do. The favorites tool is nifty, but it's pretty much just for bookmarking administrative tools. Everything that you can possibly get in your favorites section is also going to show up in the control panel itself. So clicking on control panel will get you to everything you need as an administrator. If you're not seeing those tools, all you need to do is ask an administrator, or if you are already an administrator and you have someone who needs to be added as an administrator because they're not seeing those things, all you have to do is click on your control panel and go over to chapter, or if you're on the national team, it would say organization, and you just click on chapter, and then you'll see this option down under setup that says administrators coordinators. And from this page, you can add your administrators or add your coordinators. The only difference between an administrator and coordinator is that an administrator has full control over the entire website. So you want to usually keep access for administrators to the people who are, really need full, unparalleled control. Being on the administrator team also means you have full control of your site as it pertains to ClubExpress. So things like calling us and saying, hey, I need to remove this member or remove this admin, or bill for training or something like that. We would check to make sure you're an administrator, and if you're an administrator, you have all of those rights. If there is someone on your team who needs to have access to certain parts of the control panel, but maybe not blanket access, that would be a coordinator. They're like miniature administrators. They have access to certain parts, but other parts will be made invisible, and all coordinators don't have access to this screen. So coordinators can't make other coordinators. Only administrators can set up admins or coordinators. It's pretty simple the way to add someone as a coordinator or an administrator. All you have to do is click, oh, we're getting some people joining. All you have to do is click on add administrator to add an administrator, and it gets you this little select member tool. You will see this pop up, this select member pop up all over ClubExpress. This is one of our little tools. And one thing to remember is always searches by last name first. So if I'm searching for, Michael, his last name is entered as ClubExpress, I wouldn't search for MI or MICH. I wouldn't even search for Michael. I would search for ClubExpress. So if I search CL, it would give me Michael because the last name is entered as ClubExpress. You can also just leave it blank and hit search, and it'll give you your entire list of members. And then all you have to do is double click or hit select once you've highlighted someone, and that person would become an administrator. The same thing goes for coordinators. The only extra step is that once you click on add a coordinator, you get the screen. Here's your select button. It's that same tool to find a person. But once you select them, you are presented with a miniature version of our control panel. And so these are all of the different administrative tools that we'll be talking about over our next few training systems. And you can come in here and say, I want, Michael to have control of the people manager, and I want him to have control of events, and I want him to have control of credits. And I can check those three things, scroll to the bottom and save. And then when they access the control panel, they'll only see those options. Instead, if you're logged in as a full administrator, when you go to the control panel, you'll see everything. So let's go ahead and go over to what we're going to be doing today, which is the people section. So our control panel is broken into 5 different main kind of support sections, and each of them have their own 3 little groups. So you've got people, website, money, chapter, communications. We're focusing on people today. So when we go over to this tab of the control panel, we get this page, and it has 3 little bars. Each section of the control panel has 3 sections, which is admin functions. There are website modules, and there is a setup section. The setup section are most of your set it and forget it kind of settings. So once you have your setup section completed, you usually leave it alone for the most part. Your website modules are the modules that are interactive to your members. So members can, sign themselves up and remove themselves from committees. Members can view the business directory. They can volunteer. They can join interests. These are all things that your members can interact with, but clicking on them here will take us to the administrative side of that module. Then our last option up here at the top is admin functions. And these are all of the admin tools that the users don't have access to, that admins use regularly to modify parts of the website. So for example, the people manager, where an admin can go in and make changes to other people in the system. And from the people manager, you can, make changes to a profile, you can charge people, you can, change people's memberships, but members don't have any need to access any of these tools. So these are just tools for admins. So let's go ahead and take a look at the people manager. This is where we're going to spend most of our time. And if you're an administrator for one of the chapters, this is a page that you'll come to just constantly. It is probably the one-stop shop for most things that you need to do in your website on a regular basis. This is your landing screen for this page. So what you get on this page are these 4 buttons across the top over here. This little search box, which will let you filter your search for who you're looking for to make changes to. And then the search results, where you can actually make changes to individual members in your website. When you land on this page, there is a default search that will already be plugged into the search box for you, but you can always make changes to it. So the default search is always looking for members only. But this page can also search for non-members if you wanted to change and search for non-members. When I say non-members, those are people who can't log in, but they do have the option to have their information stored so that you can reach them by email or reach them by phone. It's just storing their information, but they're not members of the website. And you can also search for both, and it'll give you results for both members and non-members. But again, the default is members. And then the standard search is just by member status and last name. And so member status is an important thing for just about everyone that uses ClubExpress. That is what standing that member is in your organization. So, if you collect dues and people have to renew their memberships on a periodic basis, most times people will be active. And if they don't renew their membership, they will eventually become expired. And so that is the 2 most common statuses that people exist in. And that's why those are the 2 that are checked for you by default. If you only want to see active members in your search results, you can always click this drop down and change the status that you're looking for. And you'll notice there are a few statuses here that are unchecked, so they won't show up in your search. So if you just come to this page and hit search without changing your search results, anyone in these statuses won't show up for you. And I'm going to go over what these statuses mean really quickly. So dropped is the next option down here. So, I'll start at the top, actually. Active is, very clearly they are active and in good standing. They are a normal member with, they don't need to do anything. They're not expired. Expired obviously means that they let their membership lapse and they did not renew for one reason or another. And all they need to do is log back into the website and renew. And once they've renewed, they'll become active again and we'll have all of the normal member functions. So people just kind of flip flop back and forth between active and expired. You don't have to expire to become active. You can still, renew before you expire, and you'll never even dip into the expired status. Dropped is kind of our version of deleted, but here at ClubExpress, we deal with data storage pretty much primarily. And so a lot of times we try to avoid deleting in any way. So when you need to remove someone from your system, or someone, broke a rule or, left the organization for one reason or another, Dropped is what you would do to them if there are people that, have no intent of coming back to the organization, but we drop them instead of deleting them. That way, if for any reason we ever need to access their information, we still have it. But if they're in dropped, they're not going to get emails. They're not going to get notices. They won't even show up in any rosters. The only time you'll see dropped members information is if you go looking for it. Frozen, functionally very similar to dropped, except for the difference with frozen is the intent is to eventually bring them back to active. So just like with dropped, they're not going to get emails. They're not going to have access to the website. They won't show up on member lists, but it's just a slight differentiation from dropped, meaning, this person, most commonly frozen is used for people that broke some sort of rule or maybe is, not behaving properly for some reason or another. And you'll freeze them, review their membership or give them a slap on the wrist for one reason or another and say, hey, that wasn't nice. And then you can always then unfreeze them. We'll talk about how to change these statuses in a minute. For all of you chapters still coming on board or all of you new chapters, bulk load is something that you will do for your memberships. That is something you'll only ever see once. So when you're working with ClubExpress, the very first time you load in all of your membership information, we will give you an Excel spreadsheet. You'll fill it in with your membership info. You'll give it back to us. And then we will load that information into our website, but we won't immediately activate all of them because doing that would send them an email and say, hey, the site's ready to use. What we do is we put them in kind of like a purgatory where we hold on to them. We classify them as bulk loaded. And then once you tell us you're ready to go, then we take all of those members that are sitting in bulk loaded and we activate them. So you'll only ever see that once. Once you're done with your bulk loaded option, this will never be used again. These next two kind of go hand in hand. If your organization requires approval to become a member, when someone goes onto your website and clicks join and they fill out all of their information, the first thing they're going to do is become prospective. If they do require approval, then an administrator or a coordinator will have to come into the people manager, look at their prospective profile by, searching for prospective members, and then approve or decline them. Once they are approved, then they go into the rest of the membership process. If there's no fee for their membership, they'll go straight from prospective to active. If they owe money as a part of their membership joining, once they're approved, they'll actually go into new payment pending, meaning that they still have to pay. So it's because they haven't paid their very first dues, they're not active yet. So they go into one more kind of holding pattern. They have the ability to log in now. And when they log in, they'll be asked to submit payment. Or if they send a check or cash or something like that, then an administrator can come into the website and record that payment for them. And that will change them from payment pending to active. And then once they're in that active cycle, all they do is fluctuate again back between active and expired. The last option down here is one that I don't think you guys will be using, which is trial. That's if you offer like a trial membership. But again, I don't think that's going to be pertaining to NIGP. So that's kind of the process you go through. One note, if you don't require approval when someone joins, then they'll go straight into payment pending and all they have to do is submit payment to become a member. And then similarly, if you don't require payment, then they can join and go straight into active without the need for like intervention with an administrator. So let's go ahead and reset. If we click reset here, it's going to set everything back to that default search again. And then over here, we have searching by last name. So now we're back into this, like how we build our search for who we're looking for in the people manager. If we leave this blank last name and I just hit search, it's going to give us everyone in our website. We only have 4 people on this website right now because this is one of our little demo chapters. But leaving this blank, we'll just search for everyone. And if I fill something in, so for example, Michael, the last name recorded on his profile is ClubExpress, or I'll search for Ronnie. So Levine down there, if I just search for L, it's only going to give me people with last names that start with L. And all I have to do is type that in and hit search. Or once again, I can hit reset and hit search again. We have tons and tons of different filters. So you'll notice these are the 2 filters that are here by default, but each of them has little drop downs. And so we can actually change what we're searching for. If we don't want to search by last name, we can instead search by all the sorts of different things. We can search by, things like their zip code. If I want to find members in a certain area, we can search by their address. We can search by city. There's a few down here at the bottom that are actually my favorite. I wish they weren't all the way at the bottom, but these bottom 3 are personally my favorite. Recent addition is very useful. When you select that option, it gives you this drop down 30, 60, 90 days. And this will just show you members that were added within these timeframes. It looks like all of our members were added more than 90 days ago. But if you get new members and you want to say, I want to reach out to our new members, we can come in here and say, show me everyone that joined in the last 30 days, and it'll give you search results for that time period. The last two down here, we have is in renewal cycle. So what that means is ClubExpress has a renewal cycle that we'll be going over in just a little bit. And the moment someone is up for renewal, the moment it is time for them to renew, they get marked as being in their renewal cycle. And this is an easy way for us to come in here and say, yes or no, is this person due for renewal? It's a really easy way to see, who still needs to renew if you want to reach out to people, or even just like grab a quick list of, hey, these people still need to renew and they haven't yet. And then
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Sure.
Can you filter by like the company that they're with? I don't see that. And that's a lot of times we get requests for.
Yes.
Oh, there it is. I'm sorry, I just didn't see it. Okay.
No problem. Yeah, no, that's a very important one. Company. So like, ClubExpress is in here. No, that's E. Yeah, you can definitely search by company as well. And so there we've got, ClubExpress. We can search by NIGP. So whatever company you're searching for, you can search for as well. Yeah, there's all sorts of different kind of searches here. But yeah, company name, all those types of things. The last one after renewal cycle is payment pending. This is another one that I love. If you're ever collecting payments on your website, you can really easily come and check and say, hey, show me all the members that owe me money, or show me all the members that are in good standing. And so that's just a simple yes or no. If they have a pending payment, that means they owe you something, but they haven't paid for it yet. Really, really useful. So that's the search tool. You don't have to limit it to 2 searches. You can either search with just one by clicking one of the X's over here, or you can get really granular with it and add multiple filters just by hitting add filter down here. And you can get super, super specific with the way you're searching. And if you ever get overwhelmed, you're like, I don't know how to get it back to normal. Again, you can always just hit reset and it'll take you back to your default search. Once you've searched for and found the members that you want to make changes to, so I've searched for these people, these are my active members. So you'll get these search results, and I'm just going to go over what you're seeing here on this screen really quick. The first thing you're going to see is the company that they're with. So we've got ClubExpress, 2 people with an IGP, and then 1 person that doesn't have a company specified just yet. Under that, you'll get their name, and then in parentheses, you'll get their username. At this point, a lot of people ask like, oh, how do I get their password as well? You can't. Even I, a ClubExpress administrator, don't have access to people's passwords. We're very, very private with that. You do have access to people's usernames, though. So if someone forgets their username, you can provide that to them. If they forget their password, it will need to be reset. I will walk through how to reset a password here in just a couple of minutes. You'll also see their general location, as well as this little email icon. ClubExpress does have emailing built in where you can blast email out to a bunch of members, but you can also specifically email one member. But this link is going to be just a normal email link. So if you click on this, it's not going to open the ClubExpress emailing tool. It's going to open whatever emailing tool you have installed on the device you're using. So for example, I have Outlook on this computer. If I click on this email link, it's going to open and start composing an email to Michael in my Outlook. If you have Gmail or, Apple Mail, whatever it's called, Fire Mail, I can't remember exactly, Thunderbird, I can't remember which is the current. I haven't used an Apple computer in so many years, but it'll just open whatever mailing program is set as primary on your current device. In the next column over, you've got your membership tab. This is where it's going to list both their membership type and their current member status. And you'll notice that member status is a different color and it has a little highlight over it. This is where we can change a member's status manually. Most membership status changes you don't need to worry about doing manually. 9 times out of 10, any membership status is going to happen automatically. If they expire, the system will automatically expire them. If they renew their membership, they will go back to active by themselves once they renew. If for some reason there is an outside case where you need to manually manipulate a member status, this is where you'll do it. So let's pretend, Michael's been really mean and, we need to freeze him because he's broken some rules. We can click on this active status right here. And it's going to open up this member status page and it's going to show us the different options we have. So for active members, we have the option to freeze, which is just going to set them to frozen. And you'll notice he disappears from the list because I'm not searching for frozen members. We also have the option to drop. And when we click drop here, it's going to ask for why we're dropping them, because drop is a very final very permanent change to someone. It can be undone. You can reinstate members, but it is important to, record why you are dropping someone, because the moment you drop them, they lose complete access to the website. They can't log in, they don't see themselves, they don't get emails. So it's important to just kind of put a stopgap here. So it's going to ask you why. There's tons of reasons. So if someone passes away, if someone accidentally has 2 accounts and you need to remove the duplicate account, if this is just a test account for some reason, you can record a bunch of different reasons for why, or even just like not listed if you need to, or like, I don't know why I'm dropping them, I just need to get them out of the system for some reason. So you just select a reason, and then it's going to ask you what you want to do with outstanding transactions. So if you drop someone, obviously if they have pending payments, you want to, address those, because they're never going to be able to access this profile again unless we were to reinstate them. The most common is just to delete pending membership transactions, meaning, if they have outstanding payments, we're just going to remove them and say we don't plan to collect that money. The other option is to move them. So if we are dealing with a duplicate account where someone accidentally signed up twice or something, you can come in here and go select their other profile. So they would show up twice. You select the one that you're not dropping, and it would move any outstanding transactions. And that includes, event transactions, history, donation history. All of that stuff is going to get moved over to the account that you select here. And then the final option is do nothing. So you can leave those transactions alone and say, even though we're dropping them, we still might get payment back for that at a later date. And so we can still go in, find their profile and say, okay, we finally got that check, and mark it completed. And then our last option here is just to expire someone. So if someone needs to be prematurely expired for one reason or another, you can come in here and say like, oh, we refunded them half of their membership, and so we're going to immediately expire them because, they just need to be expired for one reason or another. That's what we can do to active people. If someone is dropped or frozen, all we have to do to find them is come back in here and search for our frozen members. And now we'll see there's Michael, and I froze him. And then we sort everything out. Oh, it actually wasn't mean. He was just confused. He's fine. We can see that he was frozen on this date, reinstate, and now he's back to active. So all we have to do is choose reinstate. And there's Michael back in his active status. The next 2 columns over are just kind of informational columns. You'll have primary and secondaries. I know some NIGPs, everyone is an individual when they sign up. And then some chapters, they'll have companies where you have one person kind of leading the company, and then everyone else is a sub member to them. So this is where you'll see, if you're one of the chapters that has only individual members, this will be primary for everyone. If you have people that are, in the same company. So for example, here we have Ronnie and Fareshta, and Ronnie is currently set up as the primary for NIGP. And then we have Fareshta down here also with NIGP, but is set up as secondary. The relationship between primary and secondary just means the primary is responsible for paying the membership dues for their secondary, and they share the exact same expiration date. So as long as Ronnie is active, everyone underneath Ronnie will also be active here. If we need to change that, we can swap who is the primary pretty easily, and we'll go over how to move people around and even move people to a different company here in just a second. But it's just important to note that, once you're a primary, you want to make sure that your secondaries are staying active as well, by keeping the primary account in good standing. If you have, sorry, I just lost my train of thought. So yeah, that's where you're going to see, what level they are and who is their secondary. Sometimes they're not going to show up, right underneath each other. And so there is an icon you can kind of hover over to get information about who is whose primary and secondary. We'll get to those in just a second. So the next column over is our maintain column. And this is something you'll see all over ClubExpress. We love our tiny little icons in rows, and they are usually confusing to people who aren't familiar with them. So if you ever see tiny icons in a row like this and you don't know what each one does, there should always be in the top row up here, a little icon in the maintain section, which gives you a legend for what each one does. So our pencil is going to take us to our profile. These little category boxes are going to choose what mailing lists people are on. The card takes us to the biography. We're going to go through each of these, so I'm not just going to read them off to you, but this is where you can always go to get a quick look at what each one does. And just a note about some of these icons, anytime you see the pencil almost always means edit. So for our custom pages, for our forums, for everything, for our committees, we use the pencil icon as a way to denote like make changes. And so we have this one linking to the profile right now because that's what we click on to go and make changes to a person's profile. I'm going to save the pencil for last because the profile is where we'll spend a good chunk of our time. So I'm going to skip to the second one, go through the rest of these, and then cycle back around to the pencil. The second icon here is our little, box with 3 boxes under it. This is our mailing list options. Most of these that are in your system already when you start a website are automatic. So if someone volunteers, they automatically get added to the volunteer list. If someone signs up for an event, they automatically get added to the event registrants list. Same with donations, same with collectibles, all of these. And not all of these will be used. These are just the system built-in ones. You do have the option to create your own mailing lists that you can then manage manually. So if we hop over to an extra tab of our control panel here, those mailing lists are managed in the communications tab. And you'll see mailing list categories down here under setup. And this is where we can go in, and it's pretty simple. All you do is just hit add category, give it a name. I'll say test list. And now we've got test list, and you'll notice some of these say system. That's what I was talking about. These are the ones that come built into the system that have automatic controls over them. But we can also create our own lists that we control manually that we have the option to remove and make changes to. And now if we go back to our people manager, and we click on this option, now we have test list here. And so this is just a way we can make mailing lists. And once we get to our communication section, which we'll do in a different training hour, you can use these mailing lists to say, hey, I want to send an email to all of my event registrants, and everyone who has this checked will get an email. So I can say, Michael is on my test list, and I'm going to send an email to test list, and everyone who has this checked will get an email. It's just a pretty simple way to just check people off to say, hey, this person gets this email. The next one over here, this will just give us a quick preview of this person's bio page. This one's pretty bland right now, but this is a kind of like a little profile page that people can set up to show themselves in a directory where they can put like a little banner image and a profile picture and then information about them. We are looking at this as an administrator. That's why we have all these little pencil icons where we can, as administrators, make changes. It'll look slightly different when you're looking at this as a non-administrator because the stuff that's missing information just won't show up. Next icon over is a little notes tab. This is a admin only notes section. So if, as I said earlier, Michael was, being a little bit of a jerk, we can come over here and say, Michael is mean. And we can leave a little note. Anything we put in here is not going to be visible to that member. With the one exception of being if they are an admin or coordinator, if they have access to this page, they can see it. But anything I save here is going to be only visible to people with access to this people manager screen. Michael will not see the notes that we leave here in his profile unless he comes to this screen as an administrator. Normal members, we can keep notes about them without them seeing it. And then additionally, any other administrator can come back in here and say, oh, it was a misunderstanding. We can take that out and save. And if you want to have a quick visual cue of if there's a note or not, you'll notice the little sticky note has a little red 0 in the bottom right hand corner. I'll zoom in just a little bit so it's easier to see. Has a little red dot. That means there's no notes. But if I add a note and save, now it's got a sticky note with little lines on it, and it's got a green plus sign, meaning that there are notes. And so I can say, oh, someone left a note about Michael. What's it say? It just says note. And then I can keep an eye on that. So if there's a red 0, no one has left a note. If there's a green icon, then that means someone has made notes about Michael. Our next icon over, this is a very, very useful one. This is one that's good to know about. If you are processing payments on your website, this is our charge and credit option. So if you click on this, most times in ClubExpress, the charges and credits are handled automatically. So this is something you shouldn't need super often, but it's good to know how to do. This is how we can create manual charges for someone that our site didn't make for us. So we have the option to charge someone. We can say, I'm going to add a miscellaneous charge. I'll say this is going to be $10 because he broke a vase. And I'll say that's going to be, we're going to call that a donation. You're going to make a $10 donation because you broke a vase at our clubhouse or, somewhere, and we need to just charge you a certain amount of money. And once I save this, we get an extra little icon here that says $. That dollar will show up for anyone that owes money. And so now I've just made a $10 charge that I can click on and see Michael owes $10 for breaking a vase. And here's the payment page where I can say he sent me a check. We'll go over this payment page in a little bit more detail in just a second. But that's how I can very quickly and easily charge someone for something that they owe us money for. Again, most times, if you have charges for someone registering for an event, they will get charged automatically through the website. If someone renews their membership and they owe you money for their membership, they will get charged automatically for that. This is for outside edge cases where someone needs to be charged for something for one reason or another that the website didn't automatically charge them for. You also have the opposite option. So you have credit, which is where we can give someone money because they did something for us or they are owed money in a way that the website did not give them money for. So let's say, Michael gifts us a vase that's actually worth $200. We can come in here and say, okay, he replaced the vase, but it's worth way too much. So he gave us a vase worth $200, gift vase. We're going to give him a credit for that because we don't want to owe him money. And we can, say the same thing. He made a donation. So we're going to give him a credit for that donation. This is going to do the opposite. This is going to add a credit for this amount to his profile. And if I save this, now Michael has a credit for $200. What that credit can be used for is anything on the website. It's not going to send him $200 to his credit card or anything like that. It's not going to bill your organization for $200. It just means that anytime Michael does a transaction on the website, that credit will be a balance that he can use towards those transactions. So that's how you use the credit and charge option right here. I'll go back into the profile in a minute and we can actually look at a history of those so you can, manage and keep track of those. Our next icon, this is a very useful one. This is our renew icon. This icon changes colors depending on the time of year. And that sounds silly when I say it that way, but essentially anytime someone needs to renew. So when Michael gets close to his expiration date here, this is going to turn red, meaning that it is time for Michael to renew. As long as it is black, that means that Michael is still in good standing and does not need to renew just yet. We as administrators can renew someone at any time. So just because they don't need to renew just yet doesn't mean we can't renew them. So if we click on this, it's going to take us through the renewal process for that person. So there's Michael, ClubExpress. We can go through, and this is going to ask us all of those normal questions that someone will see when they're renewing their membership. So we'll see their information. They'll fill in their additional member data questions. And we'll say, hey, you actually don't owe any money for this. All you have to do is say done. And if we renew them early, it'll push them out an extra year. So now, because I renewed Michael before his end date, we gave him an extra year of membership. It will, if there is a payment tied to renewing your membership, if we renew them early, it will just add a charge for that membership and still push them out another year. But the next time they log in, they'll have to submit payment for that if there is a charge for it. Now we can look at these little icons for the 2 people with a chain or the 1 person with a key. So for example, on Freshta over here, you'll notice we're missing that renewal icon. That's because, like I said earlier, a secondary member is always going to match their primary member in terms of renewing and in terms of their expiration date. So I can't renew Freshta, but if I renew Lonnie, if I renew Ronnie, then that would also renew Freshta because Freshta is a part of Ronnie's membership. This next icon over will just show us who that person has underneath them. So if I click on this little 2 people with a chain link in front of them, this shows me Ronnie Levine has secondary members, Freshta. And I can click on Freshta's name here, and it will take me into Freshta's profile instead of Ronnie's. Similarly, for a secondary member, they will have an icon where it's 1 person with a key, and this is going to take us to their primary member. So for Freshta, if I click on this key, it's going to take me to Ronnie's profile. So that's how you can see if you're finding a big list of people and you're curious to see who this secondary member's primary is, you click on this little person, it'll take you to the profile for their primary. Or if you're looking at a primary and you want to see who they have underneath them, You can click on the 2 people with the chain link and it'll show you all of their kind of like subordinates. 2 more icons. One is the $. We talked about this one very lightly already. Anytime someone has an outstanding payment, this $sign will be present on the screen. If they don't have an outstanding payment, there won't be anything. There won't be a $sign here. The last icon is a reports icon. This just lets you print. Oh, that's it's because this is a test website. I got an error for that. This will let you print an invoice or their name on a label maker. The invoice, if someone owes money, will let us export it as, any of the export options that you'll see for our reports. But if we just run this report, you'll see there there's our $10 that he owes for breaking a vase. And we'll also see that he has an available credit of $200. So the total amount due is actually $0 because we can just use the credit for that. And we'll take a look at where those kind of live in just a second. So that's where you can go and print an invoice. You can use that to mail invoices to people. If someone doesn't have an email address and you need to send them paper mail to let them know, you can just come in here and print an invoice, toss it in an envelope. The printout will have an address that is pulling the address of the chapter that you have filled in. So in your website, in the chapter section of the control panel, there's a place for you to fill in your organization's information. And these invoices will pull the address for your chapter and they can just mail it there. This $sign option, let's talk about, let's see. So this $sign option, this is where we can come in to record a payment. Once we land on this screen, it's going to show us everything a member owes. If they have multiple transactions, it'll show multiple transactions in a line here. It'll show us the total that they owe. And then if we choose not to use a credit, so right now it's letting us, it's going to automatically ask to use that $200 credit that we had available. But let's pretend we don't have that for a second. We can change the credit usage to 0. And once we owe money because we're not using that credit, we have a payment method here. Clicking on that $sign on the people manager, that's how we would go in and record a check payment for someone that owes money. So if someone renews their membership by check, we can manually renew them. And then once they're charged for it, we can come in here and say, I have received a check. It'll let you fill in the check number and any notes about that payment that you need to record. And then down here on this screen, you can choose to record check payment. And now it's going to record a payment of $10 for whoever we are recording this payment for. So, hey, record check payment. We'll go back to our people manager. And now that $sign is gone because I recorded a check payment for Michael. So now finally, let's go back over to the pencil, the one that I glossed over first. And this is going to be the membership profile. This is where members have access to. So if I was a member, if I was logged in as a normal member right now, and I click on profile, this is the screen I'm going to see for myself. But we as administrators can go to another member's profile for them and make changes. And we as administrators actually have more control than even the member has over their own profile. So the first place we'll look is this little summary. It tells you what type of business, what's their membership type, what's their status, what's their expiration date, just general kind of summary information. A useful note in the upper right-hand section of the summary, members have access to a little tutorial video. And this is going to take you to the ClubExpress YouTube channel, and it's going to have the ClubExpress like updating your member profile for you. And this is a little video that just walks members through how to update their own profile. So if they need help with that, you can point them there and it'll take them it'll show them how to kind of manage their profile page. As administrators, the first things we'll want to look at are our basic member information. This is all of your standard, kind of contact me information. This is where they can plug in information about their company. They can plug in their company address, and they can plug in information about themselves, like their name. So we've got Michael, last name ClubExpress. They can plug in their email address, phone, mailing address. It's just the basic contact information for a member. The next option over is our additional member data. These are data points that are specific to you or your chapter or to NIGP. These are member points that are not standard to ClubExpress. So these are things like, are you an NIGP national member? That's obviously an NIGP specific question. So any questions that you have to make can be added here. And whenever you kind of become a ClubExpress member, especially if you sign up for a builder package or not just like any kind of setup package, this is something we can walk you through and assist you in creating. You can add whatever type of questions you want here. So anything you need to keep tabs of on a member, or even administrator only sections where we can say, what year did you join that chapter? All different kinds of questions. Anything you want to ask can be recorded on this page. These are a kind of pick your own questions section. Membership directory. This is when our member can go in, and we kind of looked at this person's bio earlier. This is where you can go in and edit that biography. So they can choose, whether they want to be listed or not, what information they want to share in the directory. They can change their profile picture. They can change their banner image. They can add social media links. And then there's a little like type your own bio where you can fill in, four score and 7 years ago, all that kind of stuff. If they want to fill in a little speech about themselves, this is just like kind of a free text field. The bottom section, this is where kind of there's a bit more nitty gritty for administrators. This is where you can go to manually change someone's membership type or expiration date. Members can't do that for themselves. So we as administrators, if we go to the member options, the second option here is a very important one: member type, expiration, and join date. This is where you can go in. So if we need to gift someone an extra year of membership, or just, they have the wrong join date or they have the wrong expiration date for one reason or another, we can come in here and say like, oh, actually you should expire on 2022. We can also change their membership type here as well. So like, oh, you're actually not a business member anymore. Now you're honorary. And we can save this, and that will change their membership type and their expiration. Again, that is an admin only control. Members won't have that control for themselves. This is also where you can go to add additional members. Now that Michael is an honorary member, he doesn't have that. Let's go look at Ronnie. So this is Ronnie's profile. This is where we can go to add additional members. So we have this option that says additional members in your account. So if you are one of the organizations, one of the chapters that has your organizations, your companies set up so that they're all one big membership, this is where we can go to say, Ronnie is our primary, and then here are our secondary members. Fareshta, if we need to add another secondary member, we can click this icon and add more members, and they will be given their own login credentials. Just because you're a secondary doesn't mean you don't get to log in and do things. You can still log into the website. You can still register for events. You can still access all of those member resources. It just means that when it comes time to renew, you are dependent on your primary, but otherwise you're your own full member.
Devin, we got a question about basically changing somebody from a secondary to a primary and vice versa.
Absolutely. Yeah. So if we need to kind of like secondary to primary or primary to secondary, the place we do that is back in our people manager.
And that was my question. And there's actually a nuance to it. So we have individual members only right now, and they all have different renewal dates. So it sounds like because I do have folks that are interested in going under like a combined agency membership type thing. But like if, for example, if we have someone who just signs up this month, and then we say that our new renewal is going to start, our admin's renewal is next February. So in February, when the admin or the primary renews, it's going to renew the person that just signed up 3 months ago, right? And charge them another membership fee. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Huh.
Yeah. There's not currently a way around that.
Okay.
Once you are a secondary to someone else, you adopt their expiration date, and then your renewals and your expirations are all based on your primary. If you need to, again, this is a situation where you could either manually charge or credit someone. So like if they're going to be charged a little extra amount. So let's say we added Fareshta, but she'd only been a member for 3 months. And so we need to credit, 3/4 of that membership. We can come in here and say, I'm going to give Ronnie a credit for, if it's $100, we could say, we'll give you $75 as a credit for early renewal. And then that can be applied towards Foresta's renewal fee.
Okay.
The next time they renew, we can give someone a credit. So it's a little bit roundabout, but yeah, there's no way for people in a combined membership to have different expiration points, or one of them to not need a renewal this time, but the others do, or anything like that.
Okay. The credit thing, that's helpful as
Yeah.
well. That at least, okay.
Yeah, you just kind of like figure out what amount needs to be prorated and just credit them that amount.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah. If you do need to, like, let's say Foresta is actually supposed to be the primary, or, Ronnie is stepping down, or Foresta is changing companies, the way we manage that is still on this screen. We will go up to our member options button. So obviously add member, that's how we just add a new member, and they'll be an individual member. Member options, we get 3 options here. Level changes. So that's what we're talking about here. Member levels, primary and secondary. If we're going to go do a level change, we have all sorts of different options here. The first option is the one that we're talking about, promote a secondary to a primary. So then all we have to do is go find a member. So Foresta, last name starts with a T, search by T. There she is. And we hit select and then hit save. And so now we've selected Foresta, we are promoting, and now we've traded. So now Foresta is the primary, and that automatically sets Ronnie to be a secondary. What we can also do is, if Ronnie needs to join a different company, Ronnie's going to come work for us at ClubExpress. We can come in here and say, we need to separate Ronnie and then add Ronnie to ClubExpress. So the first step we would do would be to go back again to our level changes, and we're going to unlink a secondary member into a solo. And so if we're unlinking Ronnie, we'll go find her. So when it says solo, that just means individual, meaning she has no primary and no secondaries. It will ask you what level type, or what membership type they want to be. A lot of our organizations, they'll say, if you're in a multi-person business, you're this membership type, but if you're individual, you'll be this membership type. So maybe we're going to make Ronnie an individual for the time being. And now that's going to separate them. You'll notice there's no longer that primary option. Ronnie has been made a primary, and Ronnie's membership type has been set to individual. And now let's go change Ronnie to be a member of ClubExpress. So we'll go ahead and kind of go over here. We got to go set Michael back to business type, so that, because only business members get secondaries. So we'll come in here, and then there's another option under level changes. So we've already gone through how to promote someone, to change who the primary is. We've gone how to separate people, but now we want to connect a member to a primary. And so what we're going to do is we're going to say who's going to be the primary and who's going to be the secondary. I wish this said sub member or something like that, but this just says member. So for this scenario, we're going to want to add Ronnie to Michael's membership. And so we'll go in here and search for C for ClubExpress. There's Michael. And now we will save. And now Ronnie, once again, is a secondary. And you'll see Ronnie's membership type has changed to match Michael. And Ronnie's expiration date has also changed to match Michael. So those two things always match who their primary is. It still says in IGP, the company name is set manually. So we do still have to go in here to Ronnie, go into basic member information, and change this to say ClubExpress. I think I typoed that, but that's fine. And now we've got Ronnie with ClubExpress and Michael with ClubExpress, and they are now connected to each other. So now Foresta is her own primary. She's still a business member, but she's just a primary on her own. Now we've got Ronnie as a person with ClubExpress, who is a secondary to Michael. So that's the level changes page. There's a few other options here. You can change a secondary to a tertiary, or change a tertiary to a secondary. From my understanding, there's not going to be a lot of tertiary options with NIGP, because tertiaries are like secondaries, but they have no ability to log in or register for their own events or do anything. They're just there for records keeping purposes. It sounds like NIGP will be pretty much exclusively using primaries and secondaries. So these last two options you don't really need to worry about. So yeah, that's how you kind of like unlink and chain people together and kind of control who is primary, who is secondary, are they a solo member, what their membership type is. Those are all those options there. One more thing I really do want to go over is something that happens not super regularly, but it does happen, is duplicate members. So if someone signs up for a membership, forgets they're a member, and then they need to sign up again instead of renewing their existing membership, or sometimes people will forget their password and they're like, I'll just make a new account, which is, you don't want them to do that, but sometimes people do. You can pretty easily go and suss out who your duplicates are under your membership options over here. So we've already looked at level changes. We've also got drop expired and cleanup tools. Drop expired, I would just say 99% of the time, pretend that doesn't exist. Because what that does is it'll drop everyone who expired before a certain date, but you cannot reverse this. So if you have 30 expired people and you accidentally drop all of them, you will have to manually one by one reinstate all of those people. It is hard to undo. Way easier just to let people be expired. If you're ever worrying, because ClubExpress, charges your organization based on how many members you have. And if you're saying, oh, I've got 50 expired members, you don't need to worry about that because ClubExpress only charges for active members. You can have 1,000 expired members and we're not going to worry about it. So that's just something to keep in mind as well. So that's why I just say, pretend drop expired doesn't exist. In some scenarios, it's important to use, but 9 times out of 10, just leave it alone. Cleanup tools. This is going to let you match existing records. We don't have any duplicates in this database, but if you ever had duplicates, you can say match expired members, by their first name and last name, and it's going to find all of your records in your people manager that has matching first name and last names, meaning you can go and find all your duplicates. So if you have, 200 members, instead of just going one by one through the list and finding who has signed up twice, this will just be a really easy way to go through, find your duplicates, and then from this screen, you can maintain them and drop your duplicates. It functions a little bit similarly to the people manager, but just a really quick way to find duplicates. So that's an important tool once your website has been running for a while and you're starting to build up a good membership base. All right. I think the other thing I do want to cover is what to do. So in that same scenario, if someone forgets their password, it's very easy to get your password back. So I'm gonna go ahead and log out here and go to our member login page. When someone is trying to log in, when you click login up here, member login, you just enter your username, you enter your password, and you log in. If you forget either of those, there's a button right here that says forgot my username and password. All you have to do is enter your email address and your first name. If that matches any of the records in the database, it will send an email to whatever email address you enter here with your username and a temporary password for you to log in with. Sometimes people will, change companies or, not have an active email address or not have access to their email. One reason or another, they're having trouble getting that password reset email. There is a way to manually get around the password reset section. So if we go log back in as administrators, we'll go back to the people manager. So let's say Michael has forgotten his password. If we click on the pencil to go back into the people manager, if we go over to the right-hand side over here, you'll see we have reset password. Michael has an email address attached right now. If we hit reset password, it's going to send a password reset email to michael@clubexpress.com. Just like if we had hit that forgot password option on the original page. If we go back to basic information, what you can do to kind of get around it is if we take that password out or take that email address out and save this page. And my website is loading very slowly. Well, sorry, my internet's moving a little slowly. Once we save this page, come on. There we go. If we go back to Michael's profile, oh, it didn't save. Come on. My internet's being a little slow. There we go. So once there's no email address, it should say current email address, no email address linked. If we reset this password now, it's going to say, are you sure you want to reset the password? Yes. Instead of sending an email, because there's no email address attached, we get this little pop-up message as administrators, which says his username is 1%. And then over here, there's the temporary password. And so this isn't the existing password. This is a new password that our computers made for him. And then all you have to do is call Michael and say, hey, your new password is MICHAE833. Or you can just copy and paste this and send it to him in an email. Or you can copy and paste it and text it to him, or copy and paste it and write it down on a piece of paper, however you want to provide it. But this is just a way to get around having to send them a password reset email. So once in a blue moon, someone's having trouble with their email and they're not getting those password reset emails. That's the way you get around it. That's a really useful tool to know how to do. And then all you have to do is once you're done with that, you come back to their basic information and you just paste their email back in and they're back to normal. So that's your kind of like force reset on someone's password if you really, really need to. We're closing in on time. I do want to cover two more things really quickly. The history section is very important, especially for your points tracking and your events history. Those are both very important things for your like kind of records keeping. This whole section right here under histories is a really good one to kind of play around with. So we've processed a few transactions just really quickly on Michael. So if we go look at transaction history, we can see I manually charged Michael $10 for that broken vase. If we click on this little receipt icon, it's going to give us details about it. Broke a vase, $10. How did he pay? He paid by check. I want to see an even further receipt. So this is the full breakdown of everything that he did as far as that payment goes. And then I can even print this receipt and send it to him if I need to. So if anyone ever has questions about like, did I pay this? How did I pay this? You know, how was it recorded? Who recorded it? You can always come to this screen and print the receipt for them. This is also where for transactions that were not paid by, you know, credit card. So if someone pays by credit card, that's hard in the system. There's no way to delete that. But if someone pays by cash or check, and then you realize that was entered incorrectly, because those have to be entered by hand, you can always come in here and delete them. So I can say, you know, hey, that broken vase, I made that up. That's not real. You can come in here and I can just delete that. And so now it's gone. You'll notice there were two options. There's delete and cancel. If you cancel a transaction, it will credit them for the amount of that transaction. Now, these are all $0, so they're not going to create a transaction. But if he had paid, you know, $30 for membership renewal, if we cancel it, wrong button. If we cancel it, it's going to reverse that transaction. So it'll also undo their membership renewal, and they will become expired if they're past their expiration date, and it will give them a credit for that amount. Now, with that credit, they can then renew again if we want to. So let's go take a look at the credits that we have. So this is the transaction screen. We separate transactions and payments. So we also have a payment screen. And this is where we can go see there would have been a $10 check here, but it got deleted along with the transaction that we deleted. But this is where we track all of the payments that they've made. So every time we record a check, every time we record a credit card transaction, every time we record cash, it's going to show up here for this member. And then we also track credits on this page. We can say, here's that $200 gift credit I gave to Michael. And I can say, oh, you know, he has $200 available. He will always remember that we gave him $200, but if he uses it up, it'll go in bits and pieces. So if he had paid, you know, $50 for an event registration, this would still say $200, but this would say $150 remaining on the balance for that credit. So they can use it in pieces if they want to. We can also come here and say, oh, we cut him a $200 check instead. And so we can come in here and click on this pencil. And this gives us options to make changes. We can do things like cancel and remove it entirely, or we can mark it refunded and say, you know, we cut him a check for that outside of the system. And so now we've recorded that the status is completed because he was owed $200, but we cut him a $200 check. And then we can also see he's received a total of $200 credits and has no money remaining in credit. So this is where you can come and check all of your payments and credit history. Event history, this will just show you all of the events they've signed up for. There's a little point tracking event I tested earlier. Event history and point tracking, we're going to come back to this when we do an events training later down the road. But all of your event and points tracking history is stored here. So if you ever are curious if someone signed up for an event, attended an event, or if they got points for it, you can go find them in the people manager and look at that here. So seriously, like the people manager is a page that you should really, really get familiar with because you're going to use it just about every day. Wow. Right on time, roughly. Are there questions? I can spare a few extra minutes if we have questions.
On. Well, I guess as usual, I have one.
Sure.
I would love to play around with some of this functionality. Can we do that now in our test site, or are things that we do in there now, do they actually affect our members? And
If
like
if your site is active and you make a change on an active member, it would have an effect. If you set up a test account, this is something that I do on every website that I build for people. I always go to my people manager and I just hit add a member, and I usually just go in and I'll just make like a test person that I will use as like a guinea pig for a bunch of stuff. And I'll usually name them something simple like test member. And then I will use them kind of as like a test person. I'll put my own email in there so that I get the emails, when they make changes. And then you can play around with that test person. It would also be worth asking. I don't know, Ronnie, if you're giving people access to this website, but this is our like template website that we use for building out other chapters. But
Yeah, no, unfortunately, this is the template site that all the other sites are built upon.
okay, so we won't have
yeah.
access to this, but in your own website, what I would recommend doing again is just go into the people manager and just add a test person, just one kind of spare account. And when you're not using it, I'll usually go in and say like, oh, if Michael here is our test account, when I'm not using it, I'll just drop it. I'll say, this is a test account. And it's gone. And if I need it back, I can always go in and find my dropped accounts. Nope, show me my dropped. I hit reset by accident. And there's Michael. Oh, I did the accident that I just talked about not doing, which is Ronnie is a secondary to Michael. And so if I drop Michael, Ronnie gets dropped as well. So now I have to reinstate both of them. So I'll reinstate Michael. And that should, yeah, reinstate both of them. So that's kind of like what I'll do. Like if I'm not using it, I'll drop it. And then when I want to test things, I'll reactivate it. And then again, when I'm done, I'll drop it again.
Are there any other questions? So appreciate your time, Devin. Thank you so much. Just to let you all know, we will be doing additional sessions on the website, the custom pages, as well as events, as well as the money tab. So you will get emails about that, and those will be in January.